Hello, welcome to the conversation in New Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed, up to date information on political happenings happening around the African continent and also in-depth analysis. I am Gbenga Aborowa.
And I am Rita Omodia. On today's edition of the conversation, at the moment, President Nana Akufo-Addo is not in the good books of most Ghanaians. The reason isn't far-fetched as residents continue to express their displeasure over the cost of living. Over the weekend, hundreds of protesters gathered at the country's capital, Accra, calling for President Akufo-Addo's resignation amid an economic crisis that has seen inflation rise to record levels.
Now, away from Ghana, there's also been a lot of attention in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh to be specific, the host country of the ongoing COP27 climate conference. World leaders have converged on Sharm el-Sheikh for this very important event, focusing on the need for climate change action to save the planet and create a better, sustainable future.
Definitely. I think this is the first time we're having this COP conference in Africa since 2016, actually.
It's the fourth. COP on the continent.
Yeah,
but first time in Egypt, I presume.
Yes,
so,
it is.
And, you know, Africa is very vulnerable with the least polluters, but we're more susceptible to the effects of climate change. So it's important that they come out with something strong and resolute, because you've seen the record flooding that happened this year in Nigeria and different parts of the continent. So it's a very important conversation that should be had. And again, this week there will be elections in Equatorial Guinea, and just last week the long-term leader in our neighboring Cameroon turned 40 years in office. Paul Biya. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Definitely interesting. I mean, Chidera Obiang has a lot for the Equatorial Guineans. But right now, we move to West Africa, where more than 1,000 Guineans took to the streets of Ghana's capital, Accra, on Saturday, with one major demand: that President Nana Akufo-Addo resigns his position as the country's president. Ghana is currently facing an economic crisis that has hammered the cities and seen fuel and food costs spiral to record levels. The protesters waved placards with inscriptions like "Akufo-Addo must go" and "IMF no," in reference to the government's ongoing talks with the International Monetary Fund for about $3 billion in loans to prop up the economy.
Now, the peaceful protest is the latest in a series of demonstrations this year over the soaring cost of living in Ghana. In October, members of the Ghana Union of Trade Association suspended commercial activities in the capital, Accra, to show their frustration over the weakening currency, surge in inflation and high lending rates. Will President Nana Akufo-Addo yield to the demands of the people, or how much of a difference will these protests make? Now, joining me live from Accra, Ghana, to discuss these and more, I have Adib Saani, Executive Director, Center for Human Security and Peace Building in Ghana. And also live from Accra is Ni Ayi Opare. It's the National Spokesperson, Economic Fighters League of Ghana. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us in the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Ni. How was the protest over the weekend, and how was the turnout of the protest? And has there been any official response from the Ghanaian authorities? Hello, Ni. The question is directed to you.
Hello?
Yes, my question to you was, how was the turnout of the protest over the weekend, and what's the official response from the Ghanaian government towards the protesters?
Oh, yeah. If I hear you correctly, you're asking about the turnout for the protest on Saturday.
Yes, and if there's been any response from the Ghanaian government.
Yes, the turnout was actually better than expected. It was on short notice that we joined. We joined just around Wednesday, but then the protest kicked off on Saturday. So the publicity out there was not so much, but then the turnout was actually overwhelming. Yes, it was an impressive turnout. But the focus of the demonstration was not supposed to be a one-day event, in that this is just the launch of the campaign, which is asking the president to step down. So we'll hashtag it, Ghana must go. That is just the beginning of the launch. The launch of the campaign. That's what we saw on Saturday. And there are going to be a series of of democratic or civic action that we're going to take until our demands are met. The call for the president to resign, as you already highlighted, is coming on the back of untold hardships, economic hardship that the people are facing. In the space of less than 6 months, you have the price of commodities on the market more than double or triple in some cases. You look at stuff like the fuel prices. Fuel prices have become so expensive. The cost of living in Accra, especially, is just unbearable. And we're saying the president has been at the helm of affairs for 6 years, and it's just been promise after promise that things are going to get better. And they always keep laying the blame on the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war that we've seen recently. Yes, we admit these things have been global challenges, but that is the mark of leadership, and that is the standard by which we are demanding these things from the president. That a leader is supposed to be about problem solving. So yes, these problems have come, but what has been your approach to tackling the problems, and what has been the effect or the results? Clearly, there's nothing in it for us, and the president.
Nee, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, go on, please.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please
right.
go on.
So,
yes.
in spite of all of these things that are happening, we're saying if he has nothing better to offer the people of Ghana, he should do the honorable thing. As we've seen in advanced democracies, especially the UK, in less than 6 months, we've had 2 UK prime ministers leave or resign from their positions because they could not deliver on their mandate. And that is the honorable thing to do. So we were appealing to the conscience of those in government, especially the president and his cabinet ministers and ministers, that if they cannot handle the affairs of the nation, they should honorably resign.
All right, thank you, Nee. Now, you've mentioned so many things there: inflation, fuel prices, cost of living. We also have with us Adib. Now, Adib, we know Ghana in the past endowed with gold, oil palms, a lot of things that Ghana has been blessed with. But from what Nee is saying now, he's mentioning the rise in cost of living. He's mentioning a whole lot of things going on in Ghana. What can you say is responsible for this?
Well, I think a lot of the issue has got to do with mismanagement. Unfortunately, we have a government that didn't shy from misrepresenting the facts with respect to the state of the economy. Wrong information was given. In fact, during the president's interview on the BBC with Peter Okocha, he brought it up and referenced a financial expert based in Ghana as having said that the reckless borrowing we are engaged in, coupled with, an over-bloated wage bill, etc., is sending us on a downward spiral. And if care is not taken, we might find ourselves in a very tight corner sooner or later. The president bastardized it and said that was his opinion, but that wasn't the case on the ground. But here we are today. As we speak, Ghana has the most expensive food in sub-Saharan Africa, according to the World Bank. Food inflation, as at the close of September, was 122%. As we sit here, according to government, the inflation rate is 37.2%, but we know that isn't the truth. In fact, Professor Hank, who is a very astute professor at Johns Hopkins University, stated that against government's figure of 37.2, he believes that Ghana's inflation rate is 148%. And this is evidence on the ground. How much money did people use to buy fuel to fill their tank? Not too long ago, I bought fuel for about 800 cedis and it filled my tank. But today, I need over 2,000 Ghana cedis to fill my tank. So I wouldn't need the Ministry of Finance to come tell me what the inflation rate is, because it has transcended down to the people, and they are suffering, they are pushed into uncertainty, they are without jobs. More and more Ghanaians have been pushed below the poverty line, and that is the problem. And to worsen it, You are hating the people, at the same time you are disrespecting them. The president has blamed everybody but himself for what we are going through. He had a unique opportunity to salvage himself the last time he spoke to the nation. And he ended his speech with Sikam Pedidi. Basically, money doesn't like noise. So we should stop talking down on the city because that is what he thinks is responsible for the loss in the value of the city. I mean, that was a height of irresponsibility. We cannot brush off the fact that their mismanagement of the economy is what has gotten us to where we are today. We cannot lose sight of the fact that Ghana, a small country like ours, have about 140 ministers. There are too many government appointees in the thousands. Each and every one of them has a Toyota Land Cruiser V8. They have special assistants who also have, Toyota Land Cruiser V8s. The waste is too much. Government appointees still travel using business class, despite what we're going through as a country. Every trip the president attends with his entourage, as we speak, he's attending COP27 at this time. So it's quite obvious these guys are not just bereft of ideas, they are clueless. They don't know what to do. They have no solution to all that is happening in the country, and they don't feel for the ordinary Ghanaian because they haven't indicated in any way their unflinching commitment to mitigate the situation. The president still moves in a large convoy made up of very expensive vehicles, very expensive to run as well. When Liz Truss was moving from number 9 towards Beckenham, including the police vehicle, it was a 6-vehicle convoy. These are the people we go to beg for money. Private jetting to go to beg for money. And driving their cars they don't drive. What do you think they would think about us?
Thank you, Adib. I would like to bring back Ni Ayi. Now, Ni, Adib did mention the address of Mr. President Nana Akufo-Addo just a short while ago. We've established the problem in Ghana. The cedi has lost its value. The economy is in dire straits. And the solution now is to halt this decline in the economy. Now, the president addressed the nation a few days ago. Did he mention anything about a plan to arrest the decline in the cedi and, change the lot of Ghanaians for the better? What stood out for you in that address?
Okay, I think we'll direct that question to Adib.
I'll just direct that question to Adib. Yeah, Adib, earlier you mentioned President Nana Akufo-Addo addressed the nation, and I'm sure he knows that a lot of Ghanaians are not very happy with him. What did he say in his State of the Nation address, and what's the position of the opposition on this state of the economy in Ghana?
Well, I received the news of his intention to address the nation with cautious optimism. I was hoping that something positive would come out of it because things were deteriorating by the day. I had my wife go to a grocery shop and just as she was asking of the prices of the goods, a call came through to the seller from the warehouse that there's been some changes. And prices that she was told 2 minutes ago went up by about 40%. So in essence, if she had bought the items earlier, she would have dodged that 40% she had to add to, buy the items. So I was expecting something at least positive to come out of it. Unfortunately, he came to speak like he was on the campaign trail. As usual, I will do this, I will do that. We are doing this, we are doing that. To what end? How does it translate to the ground? Has it helped in improving the performance of the city? No. Has it helped in mitigating the plight of the people on the ground? No. So what exactly is it you're doing that is not translating in anything? Okay. And, he made a lot of promises, something that he's fond of doing in the past. He never told us how he sought to achieve, and one of it is he would decrease the debt to GDP ratio to about 50% by 2028 by what they would put on the ground. But he failed to tell us how he's going to achieve that. He came to blow a lot of hot air. I mean, excuse me, but nothing of substance came out of that speech.
Okay, now I want to hear from Nee on this. Sorry, Adib, Nee, are you with us?
I think we lost a Nee. Yes.
Okay. Now, still on what you said, you said so many things that the president did not address the situations, but let's still talk about this IMF loan, which, according to the protesters, we saw a lot of them saying no to the IMF loan. Now, why exactly are the protesters against this IMF loan?
Okay, so in the past, government officials, including the president, the vice president, the finance minister, the deputy finance minister, a whole lot of them, have come out to say vehemently on countless occasions, there is no way we are. It's a no-no. Financial experts saw this coming. Reckless borrowing and, investing in projects that will not bring out anything was a very big source of worry for a lot of people within the financial sector. And these people said, no way, there's no way we'd go to IMF. But today, here we are at the IMF. And mind you, IMF money is only meant to make us look good. So it can improve our credit ratings, which is already has been described as, junk status. Okay, so when we take monies from the IMF, it is meant to make us look good, so we are able to borrow more. So it's an attempt to borrow in order to be able to borrow more. That is the essence of this IMF thing. And the shocking thing about all this is the fact that every negotiation that happens between Ghana and any donor, the financial advisors, they are from a bank in Ghana called Data Bank, which belongs to the finance minister. Since they came to power. So what it also means is the more we borrow, the more the ordinary citizens get indebted, the more the one who negotiates on behalf of Ghana gets richer because he has a percentage on the amount of money that comes into the country.
Now, Adib, I'm happy you mentioned the person of the finance minister who's been described in several quarters as an economic whiz kid, a sort of genius, Ken Ofori-Atta,
okay,
who
so
also...
They are breaking. Can you come again?
Yes, I'm happy you mentioned the finance minister, the person of Ken Ofori-Atta, who's been described as a sort of whiz kid, a genius in economics. Now, he has continuously rejected calls for his dismissal and called on Ghanaians to trust his competence and ability to rescue Ghana's economy. What has he done to reassure the people, and how much support or pressure does he have from the parliament to do something about the situation? Or do you think Ghanaians are a bit impatient looking at the global economic realities?
Well, the finance minister, unlike how he's been described, has turned out to be such a great disappointment. He is the chief architect for our woes. Unfortunately, he's still at post, even though we had 130, in fact, all ruling in a news conference coming out to say that the finance minister has lost credibility and they don't want to work with him any longer. Yet the president, who, by the way, is a relative of the finance minister, is not willing to remove him. This man misrepresented the facts, and he is one of the reasons we are here today. But the president is very adamant to remove him. And I find it very unfortunate. It's a shame, and it's inconsistent with our values as a country. The president despite the performance of his ministers over the period, has not in many years reshuffled anyone. Some government appointees were embroiled in corrupt practices and nobody has been held.
Okay, Adib,
So
I want to ask a question right now. You talk about so many things that the president has not done. Now, he has been in power since 2017. Can you say, let's look at this holistically, as the problems of Ghana, did it start when Akufo-Addo came into power in 2017, or it has been long going and you're still looking at the fact that he hasn't done enough to deal with it? Let's know where exactly this problem is starting from.
Well, to be honest, during his first term, things were not as bad as they are today, to be honest. A lot of interventions came into being, such as the free senior high school education. There was another intervention introduced by government, planting for food and jobs. So we are able to improve on food production. Others, such as the NAPCO, Nation Builders Corps, which sought to engage graduates who are done with school and without jobs on temporary basis, was also introduced. But a solution that is temporal is not a solution because it comes around later or sooner or later. And the free education also had a very negative, so to speak, implications on government expenditure, because the past administration said that, no, this is...
Are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can
please,
hear you.
on.
Go ahead, please.
Good. So a lot of these interventions were politically expedient, and but that notwithstanding, some of them helped to some extent. For example, the free education improved enrollment, but things just went on a downward spiral all of a sudden, and we keep blaming it on COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war, making it look like we were party, or we are party to the conflict in Ukraine. I do understand that, yes, indeed, is part of the reason why we're going through such economic crisis, but I think the bulk of it has to do with a lot of mismanagement. For example, during COVID-19, over $2.5 billion came into the country from donors. None of that, not even a dollar, has been accounted for. When Parliament attempted to do so, it was shut down by the government. In the end, we had party executives, one of who got her audio leaked, talking about how the monies were shared amongst ruling government party executives throughout the country. She talked about the amount of money she received then and what she used her money from and what others also got and what they used their monies for. All right. So we cannot run away from the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo's incompetence with his team. That is why we're saying that it is right. It would be an honorable thing for the president and the vice to leave, so we can have a much more competent pair at the helm of affairs.
Thank you very much, Adib Saani. I believe that's where we will draw the curtains in this conversation. Thank you very much, Adib Saani, Executive Director, Center for Human Security and Peace Building in Accra, Ghana. And I'll also like to say thank you to Ni Opare, the National Spokesperson of the Economic Fighters League in Ghana. Thanks for your time and your insights on the subject. You're watching the conversation here on News Central Television. When we return from this break, we'll be moving to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, where the world's leaders are gathered for the COP27 Climate Change Conference in Egypt, Africa. What does this COP27 mean for Africa, and what do we stand to gain from all these discussions around the climate change challenges of Africa? We'll be bringing you answers to this and more when we return from this break. Do stay with us.